Welcome everyone, Andy Lee here with Track Record. We're going to review an onboard lap, a couple laps in a Porsche 991.2 Cup car. And we're at the famed Laguna Seca Raceway. So we'll let this video play through this lap and then we'll come back to a few things and talk about them. Diving down in the Andretti hairpin here to start with. Looks like it's a practice qualifying session. And he's going to have to work around this slower car, it looks like. Into turn 3. Under the bridge. Into turn 4. It's one of the best, circuits there is. I mean, probably the most well-known racetrack in North America by far. Obviously from the corkscrew. So up turn 5, into turn 6, one of my all-time favorite corners at almost any racetrack. Doesn't get a lot of glory, but turn 6, in my opinion, is a lot more fun than the corkscrew. Up to the corkscrew now. Up to the tippy top of the circuit, highest elevation point here. You get turned in, aim for the right tree, down the hill. And luckily gets by. Out of rainy curve, into turn 10. Up into the final corner here, turn 11. Okay, so let's stop it right here. Let's go back, a few things to touch on. And then we'll play the following lap without traffic, but this is an easy thing to fall into. So if I play the video here, on the approach up to turn 6, you're going to see the brake lights pop on in that car ahead. So brake lights on, he's braking at about the 2 board there. Now the moment those brake lights come on, you'll notice our driver here is also on the brakes. But you are sitting back at the 3 board. So it's easy to fall into this trap when you're following another car and maybe you're a little bit cautious or afraid of the track. Maybe you haven't warmed your tires all the way up, or you've never driven the circuit before, and you get behind somebody else, and it's very easy to get target fixation just on that back bumper. And when those brake lights pop on, you pop on the brakes also. But now that means that car has complete control over you. Now if he gets on the brakes, you get on the brakes. If he gets on the throttle, you get on the throttle. And it's very difficult to close this gap. If this were a racing scenario, the only way that we're going to catch and pass that car is if we ignore those brake lights. And if the 2 board is our braking reference, we have to go all the way down to the 2 board and hit the brakes at the same place, even though it's kind of disturbing knowing that that car is right there ahead of us. So just something there to think about when you're out there in traffic. Pertains more to a race than a track day situation or a practice situation where, you don't want to take big chances. Same thing here coming up into the corkscrew. His brake lights pop on and we pop on the brakes at the same moment. So essentially this car just has complete control over us. Just have to pretend like that car is invisible. Alright, thankfully that car lets us go. Our driver's a little bit quicker, so now he's got some clean air to work with. So out of turn 10 on our way up to turn 11. Now turn 11's one of the most important corners, if not the most important corner at Laguna Seca. Again, I've mentioned this in other videos and I talked to this point a lot with other students, but when you come up to the final corner, it's finishing the lap you're on, it's starting the next lap. And at Laguna, turn 11 is a notoriously slick corner. Not a lot of grip. Very difficult to get the power down in high horsepower cars, such as this Cup car. So you have to be very, very smooth. Now, he's just a little bit too aggressive on throttle. So we're sliding the car out to the exit. Not terribly, but you're giving up a little bit of momentum there. You want to be very smooth, very progressive as you apply the power coming off of turn 11. Just give yourself the best possible run up to turn 1 and 2 and over the hill. Okay, under the bridge, down the hill. The other thing about Laguna Seca that's unique, every time you come here, there's different billboards plastered on the sides, and try not to use a billboard as a reference, because the next time you may come to this track, it may not be these Lexus banners. It may be something completely different. But in a cup car with no anti-lock brake system, you are braking a little earlier than other sports cars that may have that system. But this seems a little too early and too conservative. You can see as we get down here almost to the apex, I mean, we're crawling. The speed's really, really low. So I would work on trying to push that brake zone in further. Find a solid reference. What I like to use at Laguna Seca is there's this curbing here on the right hand side. Now they do have some braking boards. Sometimes those boards are not up there for track day events though. Sometimes they only set those up for professional race events. But this curb isn't going anywhere. So the beginning of that curb is what I actually like to use. See if I can pause the video at the right moment here. It's kind of difficult to see on the video, but the beginning of the curb is right about here. And that's a really conservative, safe place to start braking, you know, in most cars. And then as you get more comfortable with hitting the brakes around this region, we can start moving that in. But we're hitting the brakes right about here, a good, you know, 50 to 100 feet way too early. Okay, so let's work on braking deeper. We're also cutting it a little too tight. It's perfectly okay to hit both apex curbs here coming into turn 2. It really kind of is a double apex corner. But the angle coming in at this first apex is really pointing us out towards the gravel trap. We'd want to have more of an angle like this, cutting across more parallel with that red curb on the inside of the red and white curb. So let's stay out to the right hand side longer. Don't turn in so early. I'll make your job easier. Good exit though. Good progressive throttle input, really putting the power down well. Up to turn 3. Did a very good job through turn 3 as well. Being a little conservative in 4 here. I'm a proponent of having a period where you release the brake and you pause. You don't rush to throttle immediately, but this pause is just a little too long. So we're letting the car coast too long and we're just losing momentum. Obviously, turn 4 at Laguna Seca is one of those turns where a lot of accidents take place because people push the cars too hard. They end up dropping a wheel right here where all that dirt is kind of worn away on the exit curb. And you can see all these skid marks that send you into this inside wall. So I think that's what you're trying to avoid, is you're basically just being overly conservative so that you don't run that risk of dropping the wheel and having the car spin across the track. But there's some time we're leaving on the table here. Up to turn 5, kind of the same thing. We're a little too early on our brake input. I think in almost every car I've driven here, I've been able to get at least to this bridge. Okay, maybe there's some exceptions to some very high horsepower cars, but you want to get down at least to this bridge, right where that 3-board is. Again, 3-board may not be there for some track day events, but the bridge isn't going anywhere. But I think we're on the brakes a tick too early. We're just over slowing turn 5. Same thing in 5 where our pause is just too long. And the upside with 5 is that it starts to go uphill. So you get into it, the car doesn't feel real positive. But right about here we start to climb and we get a lot of compression. And the car actually gets a lot of grip right about where that red apex curb is. So it's okay to drive the car on here pretty hard and have it feel kind of on the edge. But know that the car is going to come back to you once you get to this area and that compression takes a hold of the car and gives you some extra grip. Good use of the track though, tracking out really well. Doing a pretty good job there in 6, using all the track there. Push to the corkscrew. Okay, vision looks like it's a little behind here. So as we come up to the corkscrew, you'll see there's a steering input right there. That's too early. You know, if we were to follow through with that steering input, we'd be jumping over this green curb. So then you'll see yourself take kind of another steering input there to kind of finish it up. So you know you turned in a little too early, so you stop. And then you add a secondary input when the timing is right. So I think that's a vision deal here. We're just not looking for the apex curve soon enough. So right here, our vision needs to be on that apex, and not only the apex, but the back side of that apex, so we give ourselves a nice straight run down the hill through the corkscrew. So resist that urge to turn in early here. Should be one steering input there. Get the car pointed at the tree, this tree here. You can see we added a lot of steering. We end up kind of getting pointed at the wrong tree. We're pointed over here rather than this tree. So we're probably going to be a little wide of the apex at the bottom of the corkscrew. Not bad, but we're not on the apex there. Into rainy curve. I can already tell we're spending a long time off the throttle. This corner is very intimidating. It's very fast. It's very easy to just look right ahead of the car here. But anytime you feel like you're intimidated to go back to throttle, or you feel intimidated by a corner in general, it probably comes back to how far you're looking. And so you really need to get your eyes through this apex and up towards this exit and really take all of that in, rather than focusing 10 feet at a time through rainy curve. That's going to make this corner feel really fast. I think you get all the way down to the bottom to the apex, and then you're finally looking up at the exit, but by then it's just a little too late. We're losing some momentum. And it's not that you need to be jamming on the throttle as you're coming down rainy curve, but it should be more of a progressive, you know, throttle application as you roll through this apex, rather than waiting till you get to the apex and then hammering the throttle. Pretty good run there through 10 though. See how we do an 11 on this lap. Much better exit there. That's how it should be done. Very clean. You're not getting wheel spin. You're using all the track. And a lot of people avoid this green area. It used to be, for a short time, AstroTurf. They really tried to keep you from using it. But now it's just an extra piece of pavement. It's concrete or pavement, or I'm not sure which, but it's usable. There's grip there. And a lot of times you can get the whole car over there onto that green patch and really maximize the width of the course coming out of 11 there. So, good job coming out of 11 on this lap, though. Well done. All right, and that'll finish our review here of Laguna Seca. Look forward to the next time. Thank you guys for watching.